Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. In the near 17 years of SNP government, there are very many areas of policy that have failed to some extent or another. Indeed, some people would say every policy has failed to some degree or another. But there is one policy in particular where the failure is complete and absolute. It is the one area where failure must not happen, and yet which it has failed at the most spectacular worst of the SNP. We are talking, of course, about the NHS. Health in Scotland is not even existent anymore. In fact, the NHS under the SNP has fallen so bad it can barely be called a health service at all. A Freedom of Information request has revealed one astonishing fact, amongst many, but this one will blow your mind. There are people waiting for treatment on the NHS in Scotland who've been waiting in excess of 6 years. Surely this is wrong. Surely no one should have to wait that length of time to get treated. Surely this is a crime against humanity. It's certainly shameful, and somebody has to pay the price. Who is going to fall on their sword and be fired over this? I think it can only be Humza Yousaf. But let's take them all out if we can. Let's have a look at this article and see why the NHS under the SNP is no longer fit for purpose. Here goes. So some patients are waiting more than 6 years for NHS treatment in Scotland. And if that is not an advertisement for a failed administration, I don't know what is. A Freedom of Information by the Scottish Conservatives have shown a patient waiting 6 years for reconstructive surgery, while another has been waiting for more than 4 years for necessary plastic surgery. And there's Sandesh Gillane. Patients in Scotland are waiting up to 6 years for just routine NHS treatment, according to unacceptable findings by the Scottish Conservatives. The party submitted a Freedom of Information request to Scotland's health boards, asking for details on the longest delays in inpatient and outpatient appointments. 6 years. In excess, in fact, of 6 years. How is this possibly anything other than a crime against humanity? That is disgusting. Now, the NHS is run, of course, entirely by the SNP. There's no blaming Westminster for this one. They can't hide behind, oh, it's Westminster's fault. This is entirely down to the SNP. The responses revealed that as of the quarter ending March 23, one patient in the NHS Grampian had been left waiting for 6 years for reconstructive surgery. Another patient in NHS Tayside had been waiting 1,678 days, that's 4.5 years, for plastic surgery procedure, while someone had waited 1,582 days for restorative dentistry in the NHS in Orkney. Well, here's the thing. The SNP don't care about people. All they care about is independence. The people are expendable. They will send children to their deaths if it meant getting independence. That's how evil they are. That's how singly obsessed they are. In the meantime, people can suffer and die on waiting lists. They literally don't care. And we know, because they're not spending money in the NHS. They're spending it in other things. And my very next video will show you one of the things they're going to be spending it on. So do please hit the subscribe button. You don't want to miss it. Anyway, Scottish Conservative Shadow Health Secretary Dr Sandesh Gillane slammed these desperate waiting times as symptomatic of an NHS which is at breaking point on the SNP's watch. They're not watching, they don't care. They really don't care. Humza Yousaf, regarded as the worst health secretary ever, and he's being slowly caught up by Michael Matheson. I think Michael Matheson wants to take the title, but he's on his way. Anyway, Sandesh Gillane called on Michael Matheson to come up with a concrete plan to fix the mess left by his predecessor, Humza Yousaf. There is no mess to fix. Humza Yousaf's policy is scorched earth. Don't let them even able to build on what we're leaving them. Their plan is to destroy everything so that whoever comes in afterwards finds it completely impossible to proceed and to fix and to make things better. It's just the plan they have. And then when they fail, then the SNP come back in and go, look, they failed, but we're going to build, look, utopia and all that. It's all BS. Anyway, Dr. Gillane said, we've just done that one. He said it's completely unacceptable. Dr. Gillane said these desperate figures are symptomatic of an NHS which is at breaking point on the SNP's watch, we've just said. He said it's completely unacceptable for patients to be waiting years for routine procedures. In many cases, they will be languishing in physical pain with their lives effectively on hold. And that's before we even consider the huge toll these delays have on their mental well-being. There's people undoubtedly dying on these lists, dying unnecessarily, simply because the SNP want to have pretty brochures rather than looking after people's health. He said suffering patients are bearing the brunt of dire workforce planning by successive SNP health secretaries, which has left dedicated frontline staff unable to meet the demands placed upon them. Humsey Yousaf's flimsy NHS recovery plan, he said, has demonstrably failed to remobilise essential services. So his successor as Health Secretary, Michael Matheson, must take action immediately to fix the mess he's inherited. And as I say, it's probably unfixable. But that isn't accidental. It's deliberate policy. Destroy everything. That's all they can do. He said he must devise concrete plans to address the appalling delays patients are facing and match the Conservatives' vision for a modern, efficient and local health service. Just putting people in, just getting more staff. More staff. That's the key. If you have more staff, more stuff gets done, the waiting lists come down, fewer people are suffering secondary conditions. Because if you're ill and waiting on one condition, you often develop a second one because you're not active or you're not doing this and that and the other. And one disease causes another, one illness causes another, one condition causes another if it's not treated. And so it's actually making the situation far worse. Anyone with half a brain can see this. Sandesh Gillane can see this. He's a doctor. He knows. He works in the NHS. He knows exactly what he's talking about. And Michael Matheson, who knows nothing, doesn't. Anyway, I shall round off and I shall come up and we shall pity the poor state of the NHS and the poor sods who have to suffer it until they, the SNP, pull their finger out and stop dicking with independence and start actually doing the job they're paid to do. Coming up. So there you go. I think there's very little to add to that. It basically sums it up. Not enough resources going in, people waiting years, people dying on the lists, nothing happening because you've got an SNP so overtly obsessed with independence that they're blinded to everything else, even the jobs they're supposed to do. And that is why Scotland's NHS is probably amongst the worst of all socialised health cares in the world. Sad state of affairs. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that's enlightened you. I hope you realise even further how bad things are getting. Well, I was going to say how bad they got, but actually they're getting worse. That's where I got confused there. They're bad now, but they're only going to get far, far worse. Anyway, till next time, stay safe, stay well, and if you can, stay the hell out of hospital. Bye.